Okay, in this video we're going to learn about keyboard events. So let me first of all create here a new file. Let's call it event listeners.js, and we're going to copy in this part right here into our event listeners. Okay, and also let me create another file. We're going to call this key events. Keyboard actually. Keyboard events. KJS. So let's go into our app.js, and after we're done with this, we're going to just copy it into our keyboard events. So let's hit here, save, and event listener. We don't need this. Keyboard events. We also don't need this for now. So what are these? When we say keyboard events, we're actually listening when a keyboard is when a specific key is pressed on the keyboard. So whatever key is pressed or combinations of keys, something should happen. So let's check out first of all. Let's type in here comment keyboard events, and first will be KeyDown. Okay, so let's see what this does. The KeyDown event is fired when any key is pressed. So let's just create a const and let's call it event, and let's grab on to, let's say, custom selector, and let's grab on to the class of custom selector. I'm going to explain. Okay, so let's check out this class, which is down here. So let's console log this event. So we are talking about this one. Okay, so when we will click in here and do something with our keys, arrow keys, change something, type something in, this event will be fired up. Now let's lecture that we could add event listener here, but we're not going to do it this way. You're going to add it, go back, we're going to add it to this variable that we just created. Okay, so I'm going to comment out this console log and grab out to the event variable, and now type in add event listener. And we're going to listen for a key down this time, and also going to create a function, name function of log key. Okay, so when we press a key, we want to log it somewhere. Log key is not defined. I know that it's not defined, but don't worry, we are going to define it. So function log key, and we'll type in here parameter event, and now let's say we're going to console log this event. Okay, so when we are going to go in here, we're going to start moving things around. We're going to get the log of what we just typed in. So arrow down, code arrow down, arrow up, arrow up. Now let's say I'm going to go sideways, arrow right, I'm going to go left, arrow left, up again, arrow up, down again, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we're just logging what we're doing in here. If I'm trying to type something in, so I'm typing A, and just refresh this. So go in here, type in A, I'm going to type B, now C, V. Okay, so it's logging everything that I'm doing. Enter, let's see, the combinations we cannot log, but even numbers, the 5 on, okay. So this is for logging actually the event. But we can also do something else in here. So let me copy this and comment the first one out, the first console log. And now let's say we're going to want to log the event, but also see what we're logging. So let's say key press within a template literal here. Key press, and let's see what we're pressing. So I'm going to take this event and wrap it into .code. Okay, so this actually show me what I'm doing. Okay, so press key, arrow down. Now right. Now we're going to go left on the keys. Left, A. Let's type in B, key B. Let's type in enter. Let's press 1, 2. Okay, so it's just logging what I'm pressing. Okay, next up, let's grab onto the form. So this entire thing right here, we take a look in our HTML. This form spans from, let's see, here we go. The form spans from here to here. So let me clear up the console. Let's go into our app.js again, and let's create another variable. Let's say some form. Really uninspired today. And let's say document, and going to use query selector again and grab onto the class of form. Okay, so this form has a class up here. It has a class of form, and we're grabbing onto the class of form from it. Let's also grab onto the inputs. And let's say we're going to grab onto this input email, and let me actually select it from here. It's much easier this way, so don't have to jump between the HTML. So if we want to grab onto this, we can use its ID of input email. Okay, so I'm going to actually select this from here, and let's say input email equals to document dot query selector, and we're going to select now the ID of input email, and I also want to grab onto the password. So the next one, is this the password? No, it's small. There we go. There's a password label input. So we're going to grab onto the input. Okay, so to this again, let's create another variable. Let input password document dot query selector, and we're going to grab on to the input. So let me just quickly check this. As you can see, we're going to use console log a lot, and it's really useful for just checking a few things. So are we selecting the input email? Yes, we are. Let's check the form. We're also selecting the form and the input password. Hit save, and we have the input password. Okay, now let's take the form and let's say some form and add an event listener to it. And let's say this time we're going to listen to a submit. So whenever the form submits, do something. We're actually going to just type in here a function which I'm going to name do something. Okay, so now let's create a function of do something, and let's give this a event. And first of all, let's say we want to console log a temporary label of event type. So we're going to log what type of event we are firing up. So let's type in e.type. Okay, and we will also need, let's hit save. I want to take out this console log here. So if I would click now submit, okay, this we still need to prevent the default, prevent default. I just type in default event. Oh my god. So prevent default event type submit. Okay, so as I said, when we want to, if we want to grab onto something, if we type something in here, then we would just, let's just say console log. So we'll grab onto the input, which is the input email, and actually going to type it in the console log. But this is not enough. We don't want to grab onto the input itself. We want to grab onto the value of it. Value. Okay, so if I would type something in here now, and we still need to have the event listen of submit, and I would click on submit, because it's an email, I actually have to type something like an email in here. But now if I would click submit, then I would get actually in the console log what we just typed in here. So let me just type here, for example, Laura Laura at Norbert. Okay, and now if I would click submit, then this would be submitted in our console log. Not submitted, but it would be logged. So this would be executed. This function would be executed in the event listener. Okay, so usually when we do something like this and we hit submit, this should usually disappear. And this is pretty easy. You would just do then the input email, not password, email, and dot value, and you will set it to an empty string. So just really actually assign it to an empty string. And I just accidentally closed up my curly brackets here. So let's try this out again. So let's say Norbert at some blah blah blah, and if I would hit submit, then this should console log here and they should disappear from here. So let's hit submit, and as you can see, this works. Okay, so next up, let's try something else. Actually, let me show you a few types of events that can happen in this type of input elements. So let's say I'm going to comment this one out, and let's start up here because I still need this event list. I want to grab onto the type of it. So we still want to have this submit on the form, but I also want to grab on to the input and add to this a event listener. So add event listener, and the first one we're going to be a key up. And when this happens, I want to grab onto the function. Okay, so let's try this out. If I press down here key, you can see it console logs the key up from this event listener. If I hit submit, then it console logs the type of event that just happened. So if I press down here and hold down, nothing happens. As soon as I release it, the key up is logged. So let me show you this just once again. Let me clear this. So the key up is only triggered when I lift the key. So if I press and hold A, nothing happens. And as soon as I release, key up is then triggered. Okay, so this was one kind. Let me just copy them down here. And actually type in here comment. This was key up. Now let's take a look at key press. Actually, this was key up. Yeah. Now down here, key press. This is triggered when we press the key. So as soon as I press something, this is triggered. Then we have focus. Let me copy this. Go once down here. And let's change this to focus. And this actually triggered when we're focusing something. So if I click in here, let me comment this one up. Okay, so if I would click in here, focus is triggered. If I click anywhere else, even in here, focus is not triggered. I could just very quickly grab on to the input password and copy this whole thing to the input password. Just can see the difference. So if I click here, email is focused, and if I click on the password, also password is focused. As soon as I comment this out, I click on password, is no longer focused because we don't have the event listener on it. And if I click on email, then this one is focused. Okay, so let's take a look at another one. For example, blur. So let's change this to blur. Okay, so blur is pretty much the same as focus, but it's opposite. So if I click on this one, it's focused. I'm going to actually leave this focused in and have another event listener. If I click outside of it, then blur is active. Okay, so if I click once more in, focus is active. If I click outside of our input tag, then we have blur. Okay, so if I click in password, nothing happens. If I click outside, nothing happens because there are no event listeners near this. And actually, let me comment now this focus out. So if I click on email, and this shouldn't actually console log anymore. Let me hit save. So I click on email, nothing happens, but as soon as I click outside of it, so as soon as I leave the email, blur is now active. Okay, let's take a look at copy next up. So let me depaste it. I hope you know how I do this. So if I click one word that is repetitive in our code, then I Control D, hold down Control, then D, it selects the next one. Okay, this is how I edit more than one thing at a time. So copy, and as the name suggests, this is actually triggered when we copy something. So let's say I type in here something, then I select it, right click, and take a look up here. Hopefully I save this. As soon as I click copy, yep, the event is now triggered. Okay, so this is actually triggered when something is copied. Okay, so let's take next up look at cut. Okay, let me comment out copy. So because we already have this, actually let me. So I select everything. If I click copy, nothing happens. If I click cut, then the event is triggered. And now let me really quickly copy this. And because we have cut, we have also, and copy, we have also paste. Actually, that is not how we spell paste. Paste. There we go. Okay, and as the name suggests, this is triggered when we cut this out. Okay, and now we paste it in. Hey, we're in there. What just happened? Let's say we type in here an email and cut it out. Let's say we paste it in here. Okay, so paste is triggered now. Actually, if I also paste it in the, okay, let me copy this, and now let's paste it. Okay, now paste is, even if I press Control V, paste is triggered. Okay, so next up, let's take a look at input. So let me comment this one out and this one. And let's say this is input now. So this one is triggered as soon as we type something in our input. And last thing I want to show you is change. So this is actually, the input is not still console logged. And if I delete this, okay, so this one I can't actually run here because there's nothing to change, but I can run it, let's say, on this one. So let me grab on again to the event, and let's go down here. Let's change the input email to event. So if I would go here and let's say select 1, then change is triggered because we just changed something. Even if I hit the arrow keys, the change is triggered. So this is always triggered when something is changed in its initial position. And let me actually try this out on this one. Input checkbox. There's the class. So let's add here. Let's grab onto this document dot query selector, and we're going to select the ID of checkbox. I'm going to add to this a event listener of change, and let's get the function then. Okay, so let's try this. Go back to the console. So if I click on this, okay, this is also working. As you can see, this is also working if we change the checkbox. Okay, so let me comment this one out, and let's take a third example. Let's say we want to type something in here, we do normally, and we want it to show somewhere up in here in our DOM. So we can grab onto the inner HTML, and we can also change something. So let's say let's go down here in the function. Let's say we grab onto the input, the email again. So we'll need we'll need the key down. So let me actually copy this and paste it in here. Let's comment this out. Let's say key down. Okay, so this will listen when we're pressing on. Okay, so the key down is triggered. We're typing in something in here. So let me comment this one out so it doesn't interfere with us. And also, that's it. This is good. This is submitting. Let's grab onto a couple things. Again, for example, we want the form now to, if we want to grab on to, let's say, user email. So we want to output our user email down here. Okay, so let's grab onto this. Let's say user, let's create another variable of, going to create a const this time of user email, and we're going to grab on now document to, let me see, what kind of a name did this have? Okay, this is a label span ID of user email. Okay, can work with this. Document query select. Oh, let me grab onto a get element by ID. Why not? Okay, so we're going to grab onto the user email, and we're going to add to this a, let's say, style of font weight. Let's go with bold. And let's also change the color because I know this won't look very good. So say user email dot style dot color, and we're going to change the color to let's go with white. Let's just go with FFF. So we grab onto this, and when we want to change something in our HTML, so let's say the user email dot inner HTML, and we're going to assign it now to the event that is targeted. So let me actually show you this first of all. So if I would now console log the event.target, let's go in here. So this is targeting the input, the type of email class, and so far and so on. So we can see what it's targeting. And now let's also console log the value of it. Okay, so something is not right here. Why can I see anything that I'm typing in here? Let me just restart this very quickly. I don't think I changed anything. Okay, inspect. Console, boom. Don't need this, we don't need this anymore. We also don't need this. Okay, so let's change the form to key down, the event listener. And let me just quickly change something here. So, okay, now this is working. So let me comment out all of this. And yeah, as I said, we grab onto the user email in the HTML, then the target and dot value. So we are assigning the value that is targeted to be displayed in here. Okay, so let's try this out. If we type something in, you can see it's appearing down here. Okay guys, so that's pretty much it for this video. Next up, we're going to learn about click events. So see you in the next one. Bye bye.